Okay, so once again, I'm live on the Aurora Discord and on Twitch. These videos will be recorded for YouTube to provide tuition for using the Aurora toolset. The Aurora engine was used for Neverwinter Nights initially, and then later for games such as Knights of the Old Republic and a variation of it for The Witcher. It's still used today to teach some um, game design tuition, but of course it is incredibly dated. I am Irongron, the lead of Aralith and lead designer. I also worked on the published module Tyrants of the Moonsea. And for the purposes of these videos, I'm using the Aralith engine. So if you want to ask me questions, you can do either on the Discord or on the Twitch as the stream is running. If not, I will just talk and explain things. The other videos in this series are available on the Aurith YouTube channel. So far, I've basically just been looking at creating a module and what tile sets are available, showing what they offer, giving my opinion, talking about bugs. This should hopefully be the last of the streams where I just give a quick overview of the tile sets. Then I will do one quickly on the hack tile sets out there, and then I'll move on to area properties and tile lighting, which is kind of crucial when making areas. So the Aralith engine, which I'm using, is available on the Neverwinter Night Vault here. The Neverwinter Night Vault is a online resource of all the things that people make for community content for Neverwinter Nights. Some of these assets will be ripped from other games, some of them will be created new. The website has a huge amount of content, creatures, tile sets, single player modules, and so forth. It's funded through their Patreon, and a lot of the people involved in the Neverwinter Night Vaults are the same ones that continue to update Neverwinter Nights today. On the Neverwinter Nights Vault, you can see Giga Shatten's Persistent World Engine, Volume 4 Aralith Edition. That's what I'm using for the purposes of these videos. The reason being is it's kind of ready to play without any excessive scripting knowledge. The in-game systems like loot and spawning, the DM tools, the crafting system isn't done via scripting or database. It's all done in-game on your DM avatar in private DM areas. The areas Trade, Inventory, Dungeon Master. I will talk about these more later. They're very simple to use and they just allow you to get a game similar to Aralith up and running straight away. So it doesn't use any hacks, so your players don't need to download any content. You don't need to set up Neverwinter Night Sync, which is a service that will automatically download the hacks that people need. It should all be pretty much ready. That being said, the engine was uploaded nearly 10 years ago. It may have some issues that need to be worked out, so if you try to use it and have problems, then maybe ask in the Aralith development area of our official Discord or on our forums or just elsewhere. There is a good Discord for Neverwinter Nights developers that's open to anyone, from what I understand. It's called the NWN Developer Chat, and that is also like a place on Discord. So you can always get help there if needed. There's not many people currently watching on Twitch or on Discord. I haven't announced this long beforehand. It's always difficult trying to squeeze in time in my live to do these streams. It's not incredibly professional. So apologies for that. So I will move on from where I left on before. The last thing I looked at was the Illithid interior tile set, which is very basic. Now I'm moving on to one that's even more basic and not particularly well known. It's called Lizard Folk Interior. Now, this was used in Darkness over Daggerford and wasn't uploaded into Neverwinter Nights itself until after I worked with Ossian Studios on Tyrants of the Moonsea. It was something I very much wanted uploaded into updated into the main game, which it was, and it's to be used in combination with some new placeables. Now, with most tile sets, let me just go back to one of the basic ones. We'll go to, let's have a look. I will go back to, oh no, that's an interior one. Okay, hang on. Just trying, yeah, city exterior. The way buildings work in Neverwinter Nights, the way the tile sets work is when you're selecting tile sets, you have these three things: features, groups, terrain. And in features or groups, you might find your buildings. You place the building down, you add the door into the building by going to doors, and so forth. But for the lizard folk, this is done via placeables. So if we go to placeables to miscellaneous, I think it is Lizard Folk Hut 1, Lizard Folk Hut 2. Because these are placeables, the doors won't, you can't place doors into them. It won't recognize it as a valid location for a door. So, you kind of have to use some trickery. If you have the doors, you can relocate them by clicking on the door on this side, right clicking, and then if you're in that area, an option will come up to adjust the location. But here it actually includes the doors as placeables. Lizard Folk Hut door. And then you'll be right clicking on that, setting it to usable and setting it up to transition you to an interior area with a script or using area transitions from here. I'll be talking about doors and area transitions and placeables all much later. I just wanted to explain that the Lizard Folk interior is actually just the interior for these placeables, which is unusual. You set down the building with placeables, you do the interior with the tile set. And the interior is very, very basic. You have just walls, floor, and raised lower doesn't work. That's left over from, obviously they built it using another one as an example. So floor. So as you can see, you click on floor, it's like a razor. It will just rearrange what it has inside. The razor will allow me to just go into the corner, and it just sets down some basic things. If I use more floor, I can make a longer area. But you can see here it won't let me make a large floor out of it. Only these sort of long or short tents to match with the these two buildings here. And that's it. There's really not much more to say. Sure, you can mess with it. You can kind of use tile splicing, which I explained in a previous video, or what I did with a beholder tile set to extend the amount of floor. But really, there's not much you're going to be able to do. The groups just put the doors in for you. Well, there seems to be a bug with that. I don't know why that is. It's worked for me in the past, but yeah, that's just putting the doors in. You can see it tells you where the door's going to be. The door's going to be in the corner or on the side, and so forth. Normally doors would be in features in tile sets, but that's it, a really basic tile set. Not much to say for it. If you're using those placeables, then you're going to want to use these interiors. Can't really say much as far as known bugs other than this one here, which I haven't seen before. Or review, it's not adaptable. You can't use it for anything else much really because it matches the exterior of the tent so closely. So, you pretty much just have to use it for what it's for. That being said, some of the tile sets do have tents that don't have suitable interiors. There's only like one or two tent interiors in the city interior tile set. This can provide an alternative. If you use an eraser to get rid of everything in the outside, then you could use it for a different tent exterior. Might not be this green tent, but it'd still be a pretty good interior for some of these tent buildings that lack interiors. I'll be talking about some of those when I look at the hack tile sets, some of the more known ones. But yeah, that is one potential use of it. Okay, I'm going to quickly go through then to the next tile set on the list because it's the opposite. Whereas this was added in recently to Neverwinter Nights and is very basic, the next one is also added in and is intensely complex. The Medieval City 2 from Zvercules. This is what on Aurora I used to build Gul'dan. In Tyrants of the Moonsea I used it to build, I think, pretty much all the cities of the Moonsea, Neverwinter and so on. It has so many really neat features, so let's get cracking. Now, one thing that I like with this tile set is that it allows you to actually create rural areas. This can be nice for the transition. Anyone that's played Aurith will know that when you approach the city of Gul'dan, you approach it actually along a road coming down a hill, and then you see the city in the distance. And on Neverwinter Nights, it's often frustrating that the tile sets are so different. So you cross at the end of an area and then end up in this very different environment. And I rather like it when you can walk directly through. So you can see I'm placing down grass here. I could raise and lower the grass to create hills. I can run a road down it. And then have the road go into the city. When you have this transition between grass and city, then that will allow me to put in the city wall. See, when I hit wall, I get this. City on one side, grass on the other, which is rather nice. Now, the terrain, remember, these is just the basic terrain. It's not the buildings. There's not many features in terrain. These are just the different options of the terrain you can have. We have grass and we have wall. That's what I've looked at so far. The walls are particularly exciting in this tile set because they have a walk mesh inside. And sometimes, if I hit eraser enough here, oops, okay, eraser removes the wall, something to know. If I hit wall enough here, it should eventually spawn a ladder that goes up into the wall. And if you walk up to the ladder, it works like any walk mesh. You can climb the ladder automatically. And okay, I don't know how many times I have to hit that to get the ladder. Maybe it's not long enough. Or maybe it's in features. It's certainly possible to get a ladder into these walls. So inside you can walk along the walls now and get a view outside of the city outside, which I absolutely love with this tile set. It's also got portals for doors inside, so you can add doors in. This is important because wherever you can add a door, you can easily add a transition in and out of a building. So I can put a door in there. That could lead into a building. You come out of the door, you come out into the wall here. So I think this wall feature, this wall is really, really good. Here you can see a route up. It's not the ladder, it's actually stairs. Can't get a good angle on it, but there's basically behind here. Yeah, you see these steps going up here, and it'll go around the corner and then go into a door, which could be a building. You could then have stairs down that lead into the city wall itself. Don't know why the ladder wasn't appearing for me. Maybe I just didn't hit wall enough. It is one of the frustrating things with the Tileset is you often just have to repeatedly hit the same button until you get the thing that you want. But yeah, there's lots of different options for the wall. It's a super feature. If the ladder isn't there, it'll be in one of the groups or features. There are so many for this tile set, but let's start with the terrain. So let me just get rid of the wall. So we have a bit more space. What else have we got here? Bridge. Okay, so the bridge presumably is going to go across water. So we have water terrain here. We can use that in the city and it will put this wall around it. Or we can put it over in the grass and it will create lakes. You see where the city is, it has this wall along the outside. So the bridge is obviously just like an attractive bridge to cross the water. Which is lovely. I think it's probably the same when it's crossing the grass. Yeah, it is. Okay, now we have castle. I've not used this very much in Aurora. Well, actually, no, let's first look at building. Building are generic streets for the city, so you literally just put them in a row. Like this, and it will create all of the buildings. I keep getting this prompt because every time you delete a doorway that's been created, it warns you. So, yeah, it's that easy, creating streets. And then just hit eraser if you don't like the building. Find the building that you like. It looks very, very good. Cobble is what you can see everywhere here, the streets. Castle is this giant castle that you can have in your city. This is tricky to build with. I keep meaning to build something using this for Owlith. It's really impressive. Um, it will create these courtyards, and it will also work with the raise and lower. So you can see you can create some pretty amazing things. Because it works with raising and lower, you end up with this castle on multiple levels. And it's a terrain, so you could paint it all over. You could have a whole area that's just this, that is just this castle. So yeah, the castle is rather good. I used it a bit um, in one of the tyrants air cities, but not as a playable area. I think it's just actually something you can view in the distance. So yeah, the castle is really good. Eraser, yeah, Eraser will cycle. It will remove groups and features and just put them back to the terrain that's on top of them, or it will cycle through the available options on the terrain. Now, just a word of advice again. These terrains, these are basically the canvas that you can paint on, and then you choose in features and groups what you want to place on the terrain. So, for instance, if I go to groups and then go to city and then go to arena, that's something for me to place over the cobble. And if I then hit eraser on that, it will delete it and put it back to the terrain that's underneath. I haven't used that arena either, actually, in Aurora. And I wonder why. It's fantastic. It's got a walk mesh all around the inside, and you're really looking down into this pit at the bottom. And obviously, it's a lot of pit fighting. It's a core part of that kind of fantasy setting. Yeah, that's a fantastic group. Anyway, let's keep going through these tiles, grass, raised lower, road. Okay, the road doesn't work in the city because the road is kind of created by creating this space between buildings. You can see it. It creates this pavement here. It raises it ever so slightly along the edge of the building. So I'm not such a fan of that because it makes it hard to put fences along the side, but it looks nice. So the roads are created that way there, but road is yeah, it can be used on grass like I've done there to create the road. If you put the road straight towards the wall, sometimes in some of these tile sets it automatically creates a gate. Don't think it does in this one, but let's just check. Oh yeah, look. I hit road, and there we are. It automatically created a gate. This is rather nice. When you're doing this and it creates a gate, you need to check where the walk mesh is. Remember, Neverwinter Nights, the Aurora toolset, it's two-dimensional, so the walk mesh is either going to be inside the wall here, like I said, or it's going to be underneath. If you're not sure in the toolset, you can always check the walk mesh by going to Environment, and then here, render A, B, B nodes. That sometimes crashes the toolset, so I'm not going to do it. The way I most easily do it is I just choose any kind of monster. Let's use a battle horror, and I slide it around. If I slide it under here and it slides through, that's showing me that the walk mesh runs through here. So if I was to do the same, here I have it in the, if I place it in the wall of the building, it's actually really tricky to see, and then I slide it this way, it will vanish and appear underneath. Just shows me that's where the walk mesh is. Okay, what else do we have? Rock. Now, the rock can be used along the edge of raised buildings or raised terrain. I'll show you how this works. It's actually pretty tricky. It took me a while to work out. So you can see it's red. It won't let me do everything, and it's got the same shape as a ridge or a road. But what happens if I raise this terrain where the buildings are? It creates this, oops, raised that too much. It creates this wall around it, but I can replace that with rock by doing that. And now you get it. Well, I really like that feature, you know, it allows you to create more rustic environments, particularly if you then have, you know, some grass nearby. So yeah, that's nicely done. The rock there. We may not find so much use for it, and then we have streams. So streams, rather nice. What I like here is it'll automatically put in gates into the sewers. Wherever you see these arrows, that means a created doorway. So you could walk in this stream. You'll be up to your waist in water, so you can come out of the sewers and be walking in this stream, which is honestly really nice. I haven't used that much, indeed anywhere on Aurolith. There's some good tiles with these streams. The stream, of course, can transition into water. So let's just put the stream in here, leading into the water. Now I believe the stream has a walk mesh, the water doesn't, so when you hit the edge of the water you will stop being able to walk. And it can also run from there we are, from the city into the rural setting. Okay, so, and then we have trees, which are the same thing we have in loads of tile sets. This sort of blocker of impassable trees. I try to avoid using these as much as possible. I didn't know they worked on the actual city on the cobble, which is unusual. I don't particularly like how they look, but they're a feature of so many tile sets. They can actually be good to create this feeling of playing one single game, particularly because the tile sets can vary so much in style. So if you're playing in old Neverwinter Nights content in the rural or whatever, and you see these trees, and then you cross into these areas and the trees continue, even though what lies beyond might be this magnificently beautiful city, it still feels like the same game. So I need to give it I need to give it some recognition, some respect of that fact. Okay, now for groups, there are so many. It's good. It would take me ages to go through all of these. The best thing is to just experiment with them. Some of these things will be raised and sort of harder to place. Other things might need to be placed between grass and city. Um, there are some wonderful buildings here. I mean, this temple's really nice. Again, it's not used on Aerolith, and I wonder why. In fact, I don't recall ever seeing it before. Might be because I'm using the hack version. I don't think I am. So, okay, that's good. That was added in more recently. That's actually new to me. I know that when we first made this tile set to be used commercially, when Zercules did, he had to remove a bunch of resources that were either taken from other games or using textures that weren't unique to himself. So the hack version of this medieval city, the original tile set, is available on the Neverwinter Nights Vault and will be different in some small ways. That's the temple I know. I absolutely love this building. Thieves Guild below temple. Now, this comes to one of the trickiest points of using this tile set, is you really need to go in the game to explore to see what's going on, because at first glance, this just looks like a temple raised on a hill. But I put it somewhere a bit easier to see, because it's on the edge of the map there, so just get rid of that. Okay. So raised temple. You could put stairs in here leading to it, because it's the city wall, to go in the door and go into the temple. But if you look around the side of the temple, so these doors are like normal door transitions. You put a door in and then you transition into another area. But here is a little cave opening. And if you walk through that cave, you're in this underground hidden room with stairs going down. I use this for entering the catacombs in Galderand, but it's such a well-made tile group. I really like it. But there is so many here. Oh, hang on one moment. I just have to mute this. There's someone talking to me. Okay, back. Okay, and back also on Discord. When you go to features, they'll be divided between the different tiles. Things you can add into the building tiles, things you can add into the castle tiles, things into the city tiles, the cliff tiles, which is chasm here. Terrain I didn't mention because it's the same as in city rural. Grass water. We also have special. This has empty corners of buildings and a prison tower for adding into these building groups. So there's a prison tower that gets attached to the castle. Something I've not experimented with much, but that is rather good. Very Tower of London-y. And the building terrain just allows you to put empty sections in buildings. So you can see here it deleted that building there. This is actually really useful. It allows you to create little markets or so forth. Just redo that so you can see. So this building here will vanish and it will create this little empty corner, which is really nice. So overall, with this tile set, it's clearly the best or one of the best available for Neverwinter Nights now. It doesn't really have any issues with crashing that I know of, but the big issue is the one I touched on here. You really have to explore it in game. It can be very difficult to use placeables in something where using these controls, they're just not exact enough for a tile set that's so detailed. Trying to just get into the walk mesh inside the city wall to place your doors or put down placeables or lights, it becomes very, very tricky. The other issue is you can end up with some very narrow spaces that can make it difficult for the walk mesh if you've got AI creatures running around. You need to limit the amount of placeables you use, but when it looks this good straight out the box, you're not going to need much placeables. You can create something really impressive with this tile set without needing to put down endless barrels and bits of wall or market stalls or whatever. It looks fantastic, and that really is such a labor-saving device when working with Neverwinter Nights, because some of these tile sets, some of the areas for Aurora, I just spent a week on, or 2 weeks, or nearly a month on just a single area, making, for instance, the Earthkin village in Aurora. Took so long to add all the little rocks into the water, the sticks around the trees to make it look interesting, to give it some kind of life. Whereas this has it all straight away. You don't need to put the moss on the buildings because it's already there. You don't need to place down trees or plants or flowers because you can see them all here. It's fantastically made. I remember chatting with Hercules, and he showed me which city in Germany it was based on, and showed me a picture of some of the buildings they intended to copy, and they were sort of, almost duplicates of that place. So really, it's great work from him. Now, keep in mind, I have the lighting off here. I turn the lighting on. You can immediately see a difference. It looks much better. I'm going to talk later about tile lighting, which really brings these tile sets into their own. I'm not oblivious to the fact that even the very best tile sets still look dated compared to the modern era of gaming, but this is a great one. So, I'll just check to see if there's any comments on Twitch or on Discord, and then I will move on. Okay, just Mornington Crescent again, being enthusiastic on Twitch, which is nice to see, and no comments on Discord. In fact, not many people watching on Discord at all. It's a Sunday night. I know the server is busy then. And all servers are busy on Sunday night. It tends to be the prime play area. So, okay, let's move on to another city, which is really another tile set, which is the sister of this one, the Medieval Rural. It's called Medieval Rural 2, and again, that's because these were originally hack versions, and the commercial versions, which were used for tyrants, removed some of the ripped textures and so forth. So Medieval Rural is much like what we've seen, except here there's no cobble. We have different tiles. We have the chasms that the other one has. I explained about putting water or whatever in the bottom of the chasms in another video, and when I was looking at early winter. In fact, if you want to know more about this tile set, the previous video looked at early winter, which is basically a snowy version of this. They are almost identical, the two tile sets, except this one has got a couple of things the other one doesn't. It's got sand, so you can create like sandy beaches. And it has these all these buildings. Now, some of them, like this elven house, have walk meshes inside. Traditionally in Neverwinter Nights and in the Aurora Toolset, you go through the door and it transitions you to a new area. But here, you can actually walk through the door into the building itself. I like this building. I haven't used it on Aerolith yet because it seems to really not be quite right for the style. It's kind of a bit too modern, but yeah, you can see the walk mesh extends into the inside. You could also, some of these have like walkable balconies here. Same thing, but this time you could actually walk out onto the balcony here. And yeah, I think it's the top floor here that's the walkable one. And all of these great halfling houses. The winter tile set doesn't have these. If you use the hack version of the early winter, it does have snowy versions of these. But there is enough here to basically build little towns, you know. I did one of the cities in Tyrants of the Moonsea using this tile set. You know, it doesn't have the same amount, you know, it doesn't have the same amount going for it for creating cities that the city one does, but you can still do a lot with it. And it's also got mountains, so you can really create terrain with real depth. So you place down your mountains, raise it, and then you can add streams to create waterfalls. You can create really big rivers going through because the water tile set can create these wide rushing rivers, which are really good, especially if you create these big waterfalls. Now, I explained in the early winter how to do these waterfalls. It won't let me. If I raise terrain, it won't let me put water to the hang on, let me just show that. If I like raise this where I want like the river to go, it won't let me lay water tiles down here and here to create the waterfalls. Rather, you place out the water, and then when you have a big expanse of water, raise the water with mountains around it. I went into some length in early winter about how to do this. It's tricky and annoying. I'll do it again here, but I won't explain it. You can just watch how I do it to create this over different levels. This chasm's going to get in the way there, so just get rid of the chasm. Place mountains along the side. And I can raise the water. Now after this I can raise the mountain so it's the same level as the water. Sorry, that chasm's there is getting in the way. And then I can add more water tiles to continue the river going forward. Once I've done that, I can then change some of this to grass. So one can be walking along the edge of the river. Here it's not letting me do it because that's the wrong height. So I need to raise the height of the grass along the edge. And then place down the grass here. Should let me do it. I'm not sure why it's not. Maybe it is the wrong height. I'm not sure. Take some experimenting. Maybe that is the wrong height. You can see that waterfall appeared there when I changed that to water. So, took me so long to do these areas on Aurora to get it so I could have grass going to the edge of the water, but there you can see now I've managed to do it here. So that's how you do it, creating these wide rivers with waterfalls. It's tricky, but it is possible. Um, yeah, and then features, again, divided between the different terrains. So here we have an elven tower within these woods. Stuff that you can put in the grass, stuff that you can put in the mountains. There's a huge amount there. Stuff one can put in the sand. Some special things for the waterfall. Some interesting trees and stuff to put on the water. There's one group for the sand that I rather like here. This merfolk building. I'll just show you it just because I like it. Again, I don't think I've used it on Aerolith. Maybe someone else has. I don't know. Just like that building. It's a nice, unusual style. So yeah, fantastic, fantastic tile set. It really is. Okay, so let's move on to the next tile set because these take a while to get through. A micro set is basically nothing. It's for when you're a modder, something to build with. Mines and caverns. Okay. It says mines and caverns, and that is basically what it is. You're going to be using this a lot if you're making any kind of Dungeons and Dragons area. So just pouring a cup of tea. The terrain. Corridors. Doors. These fences, I just have to create a big floor area to show you how the fence is. Because it's kind of tribal, rustic looking. Tracks, this is mine tracks. So that you can see mine tracks. Tracks will also create corridors, mine corridors. You know, with tracks. And wall actually just means this black void thing. And water. And then we have the groups to go on top of it. A docked ship. If you want to be creating like a pirate cove. And then various like just pillars and platforms. This one has a kind of mystical, turn the lighting off so you can see with these carvings. It says wall, but so it looks like a wall, but you can't actually. It's a set group. Maybe you could use tile splicing, as I explained in another video, to make a longer version of these. And then we have wall sections, some of which use these tribal huts. So in the mines and caverns, you see these tribal huts. They have these door portals, so you can put doors onto them if you want to transition, but there isn't a particularly suitable interior to use in a different tile set. And then, yeah, features, just different doors to put in your corridors, or exits in and out, and some crystals. Platform isn't always a platform. Sometimes, like here, it's a little goblin series, like goblin buildings, whereas here it's like a mining platform with a furnace. And there's this one goblin building that has chicken legs. Now, there's obviously a lore reason in the original campaign for quite why this building has chicken legs underneath it. I've never played the original campaign, to be honest. I got bored partway through. But this is, presumably it's related to that. It actually gives it somewhat limited utility for building in your own world, because then you have to kind of explain why there are giant chicken legs under a building. So yeah, it's fine for what it is. You really get the most out of this tile set by using lighting. You can't raise or lower it, which gives it kind of limited appeal. There's a fantastic mod for this, which is kind of like a merge between it and the Underdark tile set that allow you to raise and lower it and have some extra buildings. It's the one we use on Aerolith, but yeah, the default one's okay. You're going to want some caverns and some mines. It doesn't have any crashing issues that I'm particularly aware of. And, you know, like a lot of these tile sets, you could theoretically use it to create an exterior area. So, for instance, if I just make a massive area that's all floor, and then I surround it by water. Now, if this was an exterior area and I put trees in, I could, you know, end up with this sort of rocky island. So, you know, it is kind of adaptable for that reason. But let's rush on to the next tile set. What is the next one? Ruins. Okay, yeah, this is a bit of an unusual one. It's used quite a lot on Aerolith for a lot of different locations. Unusual because it's got these two floors. It's got floor interior, which is what you're seeing here, with these big holes in the floor, and plaza exterior, if you're wanting to create an exterior area. The exterior area has got these windows in the outside walls and some kind of vegetation. I just find it odd because it doesn't look particularly like an interior or an exterior. But there are our two main tiles. There's chasms. You can see it won't let interiors and exteriors link. The chasm only works for the exterior, not for the interior. And then a wall, again, it's just this black thing. Alleyway for exterior, but of course that's just a corridor. And corridor for the interior. I don't think it works as a hybrid interior and exterior set because it has this black void behind here. And exterior tile sets shouldn't have that. They should have, like, you know, buildings. They should have something along the top. And not just viewed like this. This is an interior layout, so I don't think it works particularly well for that. But it is very adaptable with these cavern walls here, and the fact that you can extend bridges over it to create, you know, that kind of classic dungeon experience. I don't know actually why it's not letting me add a bridge there. Maybe because that's in the way. Oh yeah, there we go. Okay, what groups does it have? Okay, now it's got these desert interiors. I think there is 3 of them, and they are used for the interiors for some of the desert buildings in the desert tile set, which I showed earlier. 1 door in and out, and then we have some exteriors. This amphitheater again, I just really don't think exterior is the right word. Fountain, mosaic. Walkway. I've tried to use this tile inventively in dungeon design, but really it makes no sense. I mean, look at it. You can walk around the outside of this. It's got this meaningless door halfway through, and stairs going up at either end. I mean, it's properly nonsensical. And then we have one of the tent interiors. Now, in the desert tile set, it has a tent with an exterior that matches this interior. So you may well end up using this tile set if only for that reason. Also, oddly, it's got the turf house interior. Now, the turf house is in the rural tile set. We're going to come to that soon. And also in winter rural. I think it might even also be in the tropical. But the interior for it is actually hidden away here in the ruins tile set. So, you know, maybe because this was added later in Neverwinter Nights and someone like myself thought, okay, we're missing an interior, Let's just add it in here while we can. But yeah, this has nothing to do with ruins. It's just the interior for the turf homes. And features, the same thing you get in bunch of them. This chessboard and the portal. That features in almost every vanilla tile set. And then just rubble, platforms. Actually, rather luxurious bed there. Stairs in and out. So yeah, it's okay. So have a look at this exterior ruined building. Yeah, just for me, it just doesn't work as an exterior. I should stop labouring that point. So yeah, it's a nice tile set. It's been used very well to create our dwarven halls on Owlith. The interior of Brigendenstein uses this, and it's used in quite a lot of dungeons because obviously it's nice to have some variety in dungeons. But it is limited by the fact it's got these windows along the wall, which can often be illogical if you're trying to use it for a dungeon. Um, and it's got a very distinct colour scheme and style, so it's not massively adaptable. But you can create whole dungeon areas purely using these chasms and the bridges to create something different. What does look nice is with lighting, if you light up some of these pillars in the distance. I'm going to talk more about like here. You can create some interesting environments. I'll talk more about that when I discuss lighting. But anyway, that's the ruins tile set. Let me close some of these that I've opened because I found that the enhanced tile set, which introduced Toolset, which introduced the ability to have areas in different tabs that never used to be possible in Neverwinter Nights, they can also crash sometimes. So Rural Winter, Rural Winter, and Rural Winter Facelift. Now, Rural and Rural Winter are exactly the same, except one has snow and one doesn't. So I only really need to look at one of these. Now, if you're wanting to create a seasonal server or a seasonal environment, particularly if you're using the tool set to enhance a pen and paper campaign, which of course is a great use for the tool set. You don't have to be making persistent worlds or single player modules. These can be used when you're actually role playing with friends around the world. You just load in as your avatar and treat what you see in the game as the table. So sometimes you'll just be standing around rolling dice, and sometimes you'll be showing them the area that they're in, and being able to switch, make what a rural and a winter version of the same tile set, of the same area, can be rather good. So let's have a look at rural. Now, rural is one of the original tile sets, and honestly, I think it's one of the best. I think there's a huge amount that can be done with it. I used it to create the Earthkin village in Aralith, and I wouldn't want to change it. I really like this tile set. Much as it is very basic, it's got a very distinct style, and yeah, it's used a lot on Aralith. So we have grass, we have road, stream, trees, water, and two different types of walls. One that is quite civilized, maybe something you'd see around a monastery. One that is more militaristic and severe. You can raise and lower this terrain, which will create these cliffs. You can run roads up the edge of the cliffs. And it's got a whole bunch of different buildings. You can see here a list of them. Evil Temple, Good Temple, Fields, Guard Tower, Inn. Same things we saw when we looked at the tropical tile set before, which is again another version of this, with some small changes. But it's if you use a lot of placeables, if you use this in combination with lighting and placeables, it can create some really impressive and more importantly, incredibly playable areas. This really does have the feel of a tabletop environment in that it sticks quite rigidly to a grid system and it has a lot of space for kind of putting your miniatures down. You know, at the end of the day, Neverwinter Nights is a hugely dated game, and you will find resources online to make something look a bit better. You will see servers, indeed areas of our own server, that do everything they can to try and make it look like it was something created in 2010 and not 2002. But that's always going to be a losing battle because Neverwinter Nights, no matter what you do, is not going to compete with games today in terms of, poly count, in terms of textures. What it will win on is having this just nice style, this particular look to it. This tile set is crisp and clear and playable. You won't get stuck walking around corners. It's um, it's easy to build with and it's easy to play in. So, you can use it for creating your beautiful little villages. You can use it for creating haunted woods. You can use it for creating, forests or coastlines or whatever. It works well, and I would consider it the go-to tile set. Now, in your Neverwinter Nights folder on your computer, you have something, I think it's called GFF Editor. It's a bit tricky to use. You can see tuitions on how to use it in the GFF Vault, in the Neverwinter Night Vault. The reason I mention it is it has a function that allows you to take an area like this, but changed its assigned tile set. Now, if you try to do that with most areas, if you try to turn a fort interior into rural, it just won't work. It will just crash. But if you try to change rural into rural winter, it will create a new area that's an exact duplicate of this, but with the winter rural tile set. So you'll have all the same buildings, everything in the same place, your sounds, everything else, everything you've set up, and it will just create a winter version of it. So if you do look at this and think, you know what, I'd like to have areas that cycle in the seasons, you don't have to make the same thing twice. You can use that program to make versions of each. So there it is. There's a lot of little features for this. These houses are rather nice. But now I want to talk about one of the new ones we added. This was a tile set I worked extensively with during Tyrants of the Moonsea and for the new Neverwinter Nights unofficial expansion to the main campaign that's been worked on by the same people, Blades of the Netheril, which you can see articles about online. It's been covered by a bit of gaming press. I've done most of the areas for it, and it basically makes Icewind Dale as a setting for a follow-up campaign to the main campaigns of Neverwinter Nights. And obviously, creating Icewind Dale had reason to use this quite a lot. Rural Winter Facelift. So it's the winter version of this one. But it is a facelifted version. Superior in almost every way. It also has some new features I want to cover just quickly. Okay, so the textures are much improved. If I put down some of the same buildings we just looked at, some of the same buildings we just saw, you'll see that they have, really, really improved textures. The snow looks better, the buildings look better. That house I just showed you, house 1, there's the new version. If I raise and lower the terrain, again, it's just much, much crisper. I recently replaced Scaljard using that editor program I just told you about to change our existing scourge yard to use this tile set, and it's really good. The reason I'm just raising it now is because it does have some new features. There's a new terrain camp which creates this quite bland-looking area surrounded by a stockade. But inside the camp, once you've created it, you go up to features, camp. You can maybe there's a breach, maybe someone's broken in, so they can walk in that way, or you're adding your gate to it. Sorry, I placed that wrong, but you can see what I mean. The reason you're not seeing the gate is because I haven't got the doors set up for this builders module with these hacks. Normally the gate would appear there. I've obviously got the wrong door set up here. But you can put the watchtower in along the edge of the wall. And it has the same working ladders as the medieval city tile set. So if you walk your character up to the edge of this ladder and then just click at the top, they'll automatically climb up, and you can stand up here and fire arrows out at the people outside. This would be really good in a DM run event, because you could create a battlefield environment where monsters are trying to break down the gate and you're firing from the safety of here. I really like that. There's a lot that can potentially be done with it. So that's the Rural Winter tile set, and again, it's available to anyone with Neverwinter Nights. Now, someone asked me recently which tile set in one of these other streams, which tile set would I name as something that you can do unusual things with. And sea caves, while not a tile set I'm a huge fan of, I did create some really nice islands, some really nice kind of scary tropical kind of with a kind of voodoo feel for exploring with the Aerolith ships. Now, the tile set itself is intended to create sea caves. It will sometimes give you these walls and sometimes give you a cave wall. If you want to change it, you need to use the eraser, and it will rotate between the two. One thing I don't like of it is that it will put down oars and anchors and seashells. Now, that means it's not so adaptable. You can't really use it, much as I've tried, for areas that are not directly by the sea. You can use it for underwater areas. Underwater areas basically just use bubble placeables and lighting and fog to give the impression that something's underwater. But you can see the sand by the wall is on a slightly different level. Now, this also makes it hard to build with, because when you start trying to use placeables, this Sphinx statue, part of it's going to be floating as it sticks over the edge, or part of it's going to be buried. And that can become really tricky if you're trying to decorate an actual room, if you try to use these walls to make a hallway. I did one of the most popular dungeons on Aerolith. Every time I ask people about the dungeons they like, they often mention one of the very first things I made, which honestly can be a little bit insulting, given that I've tried to work so much to get so much better. But in the end, it was the stuff I made when I was a total novice that seems to, affect people most. I guess that can be inspiring for people that want to start working with it today. But the Slime Temple in the Underdark uses this tile set, and it took me so long. Let's go back to its features. So we've got bridges to go over the water, floor, corridors, the normal things. The groups, again, they're very limited. Platforms. Again, this is almost identical to the ruin platform I showed you before. And then just a platform here with some kind of giant skull on it. There's a nice dolphin here. Oh no, it's a hammerhead shark. So really, there's not much there. Some features there, hot spring, the normal things you get elsewhere, these chessboards and everything else. But anyway, when it comes to adaptability, what I did when I wanted to create something unusual with this tile set is Let me just resize the area to 2 by 2. Tiny, 2 by 2. There it is. Hard to see. Okay, then I will put this to water. Okay, now I resize it again to large. Okay, now I just have this big water area. So it's just a big expanse of water. Then I can use the floor to create an island. Now, if I'm adding a skybox and using ships around it, and using a lot of fog to make it look kind of weird and mysterious, I can even create buildings like this. I mean, I'm not taking time to do it all perfectly, but you get the impression what I'm talking about. So it doesn't have a roof there, so maybe let's just use the raft. That's in miscellaneous, placeable. Raft, put a bunch of these on the top. Again, obviously I'd been spending a lot more time over these, aligning them if I was making an actual area. But, you know, at the end of the day, the effect I'm going to get is of an exterior area with this kind of, weird looking building with an octopus head. And I can use, have streams going across it by just using the water tile. Oh, hang on. So I'm getting like bridges there, whatever. Okay, that doesn't work because it has ropes heading into the ceiling. But here you can see that works. So I used this alongside tons of palm trees and plants. And heavy fog. Just hit that button there to change it. We'll talk more about placeables later. Okay, you put a skybox in, you put some heavy fog, you have it raining all the time, and then you're creating something kind of interesting. Use rock placeable, so that is something I really like with that tile set. You know, thinking about tile sets, you can sometimes, not always, use them in interesting ways, and that's what I would do with the C tile set. Okay, I just check Twitch. Okay, let's go to the next tile set. Not a new module, a new tile set. We're really finally getting there. So sea ships. This was again is a new one that we added after Tyrants of the Moon Sea. This was made for that module because we have some sea battles. Now, a lot of different tile sets have different ships, and on Aerolith we have this fantastic ship system where people can own ships and explore and whatever. This mixes all the different ships together and puts them all in one tile set. Now you see the terrain says castle, city, eraser, rural, tropical. That is actually referring to the type of water. You see, that's the water from the tropical tile set. That's the water from the rural tile set. That's the water from the city tile set. And that's the water from the castle tile set. And there it has all the different types of ships. So, all the different boats from all the different tile sets, all together in one place. Not only that, it allows them to have walkways between the two so you can fight. So you see here it says none. Some of them will say left arrow. So now there should be a walkway to the left. And then we can add in walkways between them too. So Gangplank Castle. Zion Castle? Can't remember. So you can add in walkways between the ships so the ships end up linked. So there. You see, so now you can put a ship there, you can have walk between the ships and fight from one ship to the other, so one ship can board another. So that's a rather nice tile set. That's all it is. It's for ships and then connections between them. So, you know, very usable in as a DM aid in a single player campaign. Not so usable in a persistent world, but still, I really like that tile set. It was one I specifically asked for so I could do some of the events in Tyrants of the Moonsea where you have these ship battles. So I'm really proud to see that updated into the main game. Sewers. Such a common thing in fantasy games where you go and have adventures in the sewers, but I'm pretty sure real life adventures in the sewers would be far less entertaining. Because of the big pipes extending up into the ceiling, like with the Steamworks tile set, which is very similar to this, it's not adaptable to use in exterior areas or city areas. It really is just for creating sewers. You have big floor areas and corridor areas and doors and fences to go in between. And then, of course, because it's a sewer area, you get a lot of water. It's called pit, but it is actually water, a pleasant shade of green. And the groups all basically, they're big metallic things, you know, for the most part, just big bits of pipe. Except for the camps, which are these sort of camps with skulls for whatever monsters you have living in the sewers. I think one of these platforms is a big camp. I'm not sure which. Camps, little things with skulls outside. So yeah, it's rather basic, but again, with the sewer lighting and everything else, it's most definitely fit for purpose. I'll talk about lighting, tile lighting and area properties in the video after videos talking about tile sets. We'll talk more about that then. Steamworks is basically a reskin of sewers. It doesn't have anything. It's much crisper in its textures, but it's basically the same thing. It's probably the vanilla tile set that is the highest quality in terms of its textures. But because of its giant spinning wheels and pipes you moving in unusual ways, there's not much you can use it for other than like golem workshops. See these wheels turning on the wall? I once tried to create a kind of tank by trying to be inventive with that tile set, but with these pipes extending into the ceiling, it becomes very difficult. Remember, if you do see anything moving in any tile set, right-click on the tile, go to Tile Properties, turn the animation off. That will stop it from moving. Maybe I don't want steam coming out of this pipe here. Turn the animation off. The steam stops. So that's something really important to know when you have a tile set with lots of animations. But other than that, it is basically the sewers again. You know, this time the pit, rather than being water, is just a really deep pit filled with steam. Obviously, it being Steamworks, but other than that, it's basically the same thing. It's even got these same tents. Chains extending down. So if you're looking to create some sort of high techno stuff, it's it's good for that. It's got some sort of weird buttons and switches on some of the tile groups. but it is basically the sewers again, but with a slightly different theme. So, tropical. Oh, I haven't covered that yet. Tropical, I'm not going to do it now because it's the same as rural and rural winter. It just has a longer grass. In fact, I will just show it very, very quickly, just so you're clear what I'm talking about. Because there is one thing I should mention with it. I just did then. The grass is incredibly long. It will reach up to your character's waist, but you won't see it in the tile set. You'll see this flat plane, but it's not like that in game. You will have tall grass, and that can make a difference depending on what you're wanting to build there. But you can see that it is almost all the same tiles. I say almost the same because it's got the shipwreck for the sand that the other one doesn't, and this mysterious cave with like a shark theme, and the terrain, it's actually got not just grass but also sand. But other than that, it can be raised and lowered, not on the sand but on the grass, and the tiles are mostly the identical tiles that you have in right down to the houses that you have in rural. And like those, it's great. It's really adaptable, but the long grass can make it tricky. Yep. Okay. So I will do one last tile set now. Quickly, I'm running out of time. It's a bit of a problem because the last tile set is the one I wanted to talk about most of all. The Underdark. The Underdark tile set would be my number one tile set. It's the last one on the list, but the first one in my affections. It can be raised and lowered, which is really important for creating interesting areas. It's got this sort of fantastic texture and lighting. It's got 3 different types of building tiles. The Sverfneblin tiles, the Drow tiles, and the Poor sector. Now, what I've been doing privately, paying to have a new tile set made for Neverwinter Nights called the Missing Interior tile sets, and I've been working with an ex-employee of Beamdog, current employee of Ossian, who's been creating a professional-looking new tile set for Neverwinter Nights that creates a workable interior for this and for this. The Poor sector and the Sverfneblin sector don't have interiors in Neverwinter Nights, so you kind of have to adapt other tile sets to them, and it doesn't work very well. Also, this Sverfneblin round building here, we now have an interior to match it. The tile set is called the Missing Interior tile set. It's incredibly complex. He's been working on it for literally years. Always seems to be near completion. I hope it is finished soon. When it is finished, it will go up on the Neverwinter Nights vault for everyone to use. A couple of points about this tile set is the animations. For instance, here by the slope. If I right click on this and I turn the animation loops on, there's crystals and there are these glowing funguses. If I turn the light off, you can see the fungus glows. It's very pretty, but it will create bugs if you rotate the area after you've done this, or change the tiles and resize the areas. The crystals can remain, and you will not be able to get rid of them. You will right click here to turn off the animations, but it won't work. You have to find some other tile where you can't see anything and then change the animations there, and it might get rid of the crystals over here. So really a key point when working with the Underdark tile set is do not turn on these animations until you're sure you're finished making the area and you're not going to be resizing it or rotating it. The other point to make when working with this tile set is that it has rocks that you can put along the edge of the area. And water. But these rocks, particularly if... one moment. Let me raise the terrain. So these rocks are very good for blocking the edge of an area, but if I do rock here, it won't let me. But if I put a section of floor here, okay, now I can do it. Okay. Now, you could be working with this you could be working with this tile set. You could have been working for hours. You could really like what you've been working on. And then decide that you want to resize the area. Let me just rotate the area. When you have rocks along the edge of the area on different levels, with waters, or more problematically with chasms, and then you resize the area. I have to put floor there to be able to put rock here. And now I resize the area. It's created this white void. This is a severe crash with this tile set. As soon as I start trying to move the mouse here or rotate too much, it's going to recognize that it's broken and it's going to crash. And I'm going to lose everything I've worked on. I'm going to have to restart. If you see that happen, it's too late. It's noticed it. I can click OK, but it's going to keep appearing. So I could keep hitting enter until I get the chance to close the area. Choose not to modify it. Luckily, I could get out of it and get back, but you will lose the work. The Underdark tile set is fantastic, but it will crash in those two ways. One, creating those crystals that you can't get rid of. The other one, if you have rocks running along the edge of the area. So just be careful when you use it. I'm going to end the stream now because I've gone on a bit longer than I intended to. My next stream, which I'll hopefully deal with soon, I'll be talking about hack tile sets. Hack tile sets like, let me just go here, like the Blood War tile set, which it was made for a discontinued premium module for Neverwinter Nights, which is amazing looking. Also some of the facelift tile sets that are used to create better versions of existing tile sets that are from Hercules, and just some of the mods that I would most recommend, either because they look very good, but also because they're stable, they're not going to crash and ruin your game. But okay, thanks for listening and watching. I will end this now. Until next time.